afternoon, everybody. It's being 4 p.m. I'd like to call to order. First, Natasha, could you ask for any regrets? And is there any declaration of pecuniary interest? I think that's your turn to ask that question. Yes? Okay. Now we're going to.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Before I ask for a motion to approve the minutes before you, are there any errors or omissions in the minutes as received? Yes, ma'am. So can we go back to the transportation people and get that answer?
Yes, absolutely. I'll have staff report back to the committee on that.
Thank you.
Any other errors or omissions? If none, I'd ask, yes.
Sorry, just to add to Deborah's, I had also asked with transit how often drivers are reporting that automatic voice messaging isn't, or announcements, pre-boarding and announcements, stop announcements are being reported as non-functioning. And she also said that she would get back to us on that. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, we will have staff report back on that as well.
Anything else? If not, I'd ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposition? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to discussion items. Site plan review 4.1. We have someone who's going to do that. Who's going to do that?
I'll be making a presentation this evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
No problem at all. I had hoped to be there in person to make the presentation, unfortunately, under the weather. And as I say to my team, for my health and your safety, I'm going to do this virtually. So again, thank you everyone. I did do a little bit of a teaser as to the site plan review back in September when the orientation session was online, but
Christina. We are going to enable screen sharing, so if you're comfortable doing so, you can try that. We'll take your presentation down.
Perfect. Let me.
Yeah, he's just doing it now. We'll give him a moment.
Okay. Okay. I apologize.
If you want to try now, Christina?
Okay.
Yeah, we can see it great. Thank you.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions for Christina? David? Councilor Giddings, sorry.
Oh, thank you. Christina, thank you for the presentation. When we look at developing areas, it's somewhat easier because we've got various home builders building single-family homes, perhaps some multi-unit residential buildings, and they would follow that through site plan. When we look at an area like Midtown, where eventually we're going to have 60, 70,000 people, and it's a blank slate. It's a group of parking lots right now. How does your group get involved early on to look at the area as a whole, as opposed to individual projects? Because the connectivity is going to be extremely important, and we're going to have privately owned public spaces and different types of parks and hardscape. So obviously this is going to be done over the coming decades, but just curious, do you get, or will your team or whoever follows the people that are going to follow you, get involved at the start of that?
Absolutely, and in fact, we are, sorry, absolutely, we are involved now, through the work that's been undertaken so far and will continue through Midtown. So, for example, we have existing policies in our local plan that speak to accessibility, and whether it's, linked to municipal, along, municipal corridors and the sidewalk, whether it's related to town-owned or privately owned, publicly accessible open spaces. And so, with each of those, it has, we're looking for accessibility, comfort, all of those aspects that are required in such an amenity space. And so that would be ingrained in the official plan policy. And then from that, the zoning bylaw as well as any other implementing document. So that would be design documents. It would be any streetscape master plan or parks open space master plan. And so that language will be very clearly incorporated as well as highlighted as these are the expectations that we have now. And so really it starts at that official plan level, and then that's where into the different implementing documents, zoning, urban design, and other master plans. And so then that would continue on down through the implementing the site plan review phases as well. And so it's sort of that cascading. So from the macro of, accessibility as a tenet of, the outcome, and then that is the what, and then it's through these implementing documents, is the how, is the standard, is the design detail, is all of that. So we're in it from infancy all the way through to implementation.
Thank you very much for that. Quick follow-up. Council will be seeing a new official plan for Midtown in the new year. Should this be included in that, or is that just understood to be in place?
It's understood that it's in place. I haven't been as involved with the most recent round of the Midtown policies. However, I can speak very confidently that in the urban design section of our official plan, that anything related to municipal rights of way, open spaces, park spaces, accessibility is strongly embedded in that language. And so we do have a section, or will have a section in the Midtown specific policies that will say, in addition to the urban design policies in section 6 of the official plan, the following are applicable. So, we're still stitching and tying together those works or those policies.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions? Then I'd like to ask you a question. Christina, there's a lot of information that you presented to us today. And when you looked at that Ward 1 alone, there must be 50 different plans. For a small committee, how can we possibly look at all these things where we used to years ago? You would bring the plans in here and we'd sit down and go over them, the ones that you wanted us to review. How do we know which ones to review? How do we find out when and where they arrive? And do we have to look at the website every day? And under those circumstances, do we have to strike a committee within this committee or a subcommittee to do that work?
The landscape, it has changed considerably, between when I started, 2006 and, sort of getting that understanding and that, that report or consultation, to where we are today. So, for example, all of the materials that we receive now are digital, so we don't get, paper copies. We now, as per the planning act, are required to turn around our review, comment, and decision within 60 days of receiving. So in terms of process, the committee now is meeting on a quarterly basis. And certainly the other piece I would say is that, of the list of, the 50, as I mentioned, some of them have been around, for a couple of years. So, of course, yes, the risk is they don't have, a good sense of how many of those are truly active, applications. And I would also say that the tools that we have as staff, in terms of the regulations, really allow for us to, to undertake that review specifically. And if I could be candid, I found that when I was bringing in, even though like there's 7 or 8 or 10 applications that would fall within the purview of the review, you're only able to get to 2 or 3, in the working session. And I found that, and it's more anecdotal, I might have reported, but I found that a lot of the discussion and the comments and the concerns raised were really falling outside of the purview or outside of the scope of site plan, and the intent of site plan review. So, as an example, hearing a lot of questions around, oh, that's going to add a lot more traffic on the railroad, and, how does this impact, development that's further down the road? And really, they were great discussions and great feedback, but the purpose of the site plan review, we weren't necessarily, staying within the scope, of really what we can and cannot, require from a development perspective. And there were even some, regarding alarm systems and light systems within the building that it also went outside of the scope. And that was information I brought back to the planning executives, when they're looking at the building permit, just as information. But, from my perspective, I found that, the focus of the review is not really on site plan matters.
So really, what you're asking for this committee, in my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is we're looking at what is happening really on the outside of the building in terms of the site itself. So that brings 2 questions to my mind. First question is, these are all digitized programs that you've got available on the website. Can we actually make changes to them to make recommendations, or do we have to have those kinds of programs embedded in our computers to do so?
All of the materials that are on the web related to each of the applications, they're all PDF, files. So if you have a PDF reader, whether it's a Vista, Micro, or, how you use other, PDF files, granted, and as you saw today, there's a lot of there.
Yeah.
And so, I find like I'm constantly, sending and moving in. So, even from our perspective, there's benefits, but also some challenges when we are looking at, drawings of that size on a smaller screen.
Well, the question that I have to that is that that would mean that I'd have to have a PDF where I've got access to doing certain things, which means an expense to me, and I don't have that. I don't know how many people on this committee have that. And, this is something that, a lot of us who are not, involved in a business situation, we have no access to those things. So how can we make comment?
So I guess my, and I'm thinking about it through the, the elements that we as a, as a town department, have to provide responses in terms of meeting the objectives of, section 41 of the planning act, those 60-day timeline. I'm wondering if there's an if there's an alternate where if there are matters, and it may not be specific to a certain site, but if there are matters that are of concern, if those could be brought to the committee and discussed at the committee level and forwarded on to work inside so that when we look at the standards that we need to refine, to modify, to upgrade, we can do that through that standards manual, which is then again the lens through which we review our applications and the developers are expected to meet those standards.
So, that sort of helps a little bit. What I'm wondering, and I'm going to bring this to the committee after we have our discussions between us here, we would actually probably verbally say things that we thought, were not appropriate on the PDFs that we see. And we would actually get notification from you when we really need to look at certain, certain documents, rather than having to, sort through all of them individually and frequently. I mean, this could be a full-time job for people on this committee, and I don't think people on this committee have the time to do that as a full-time job. So I'm now going to ask the committee, would you like to actually set up a subgroup or subcommittee to look at these things, and we can determine the frequency that we need to actually have comment, but we would also then like to have you or your department send us information as to what we should be looking at. Is that a possibility?
I'll just jump in and say, well, if that's what the committee decides to do in terms of selecting a working group, we will support where we can in terms of providing access to that information. But we're not in a position, unfortunately, to do that working through that means that we accommodated, say from 2006 onward, because again, looking at time and energy on both sides, from staff perspective as well as the committee members. And so I think we're in a position to say we've got pretty strong footing on in terms of all of the seats that we have, whether it's our own or those from the province. And I guess I would be looking for from the group that are there areas or are there issues that maybe it is a good working session that at the next meeting to say, to give feedback, when you're out and about, these are the issues that we're seeing. And there might be an opportunity for, there's, I could also bring the standards manual, and use that as a tool as well to kind of walk through. But it is a lot of information. And I certainly don't want to overburden, burden the committee with this. And I'm hoping that we have this well in hand from a staff perspective and being able to do that consultation when we are developing and refining those standards. But I'll leave it to the committee.
Andrew, you had a comment?
I do, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, to the committee. So I just wanted to note the council-approved terms of reference. It does indicate that the committee accomplishes its mandate and goal by providing feedback on select site plan applications as described in Section 41 of the Planning Act as determined by the town. And so that's where I do believe Christina touched upon that there is criteria as to which site plans are to come to the committee. So perhaps if you are thinking about establishing some sort of a working group, it can look at the terms of reference before we look at specifically the site plan piece. It could look at the terms of reference.
Thank you for that clarification, because that's what I was looking for.
Okay.
The council has some plans that they'd like us to look at to determine from a point of view accessibility. And that's, if we get those, then we're giving, that's limiting the number of things. We don't have to look at every one on the website, because that was my concern. I mean, there's going to be hundreds of them. And, you know, we just don't have the horsepower to do that.
And
So-
if I could add as well too, and I would have to get back to the committee, but I do believe we did establish criteria after consulting with the committee about which site plans are brought to them. So we can provide that to the committee.
So with that stated, yes, Councilor Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, quite frankly, I don't have the expertise. Leave the time alone out of it. I don't have the expertise to go through that. I'm visual, but looking at something flat, I can't do it. The other thing is, a number of site plans aren't coming through planning and development at council anymore, because the timelines, as Christina had talked about, we have a provincial government that is serious about reducing or increasing the amount of building, and we don't get to look at them at council. So for those reasons, I think your conversation with Andrea makes an awful lot of sense. I think it does have merit, though, if this group could get a sneak peek at the opening of a community center, because that is the latest and greatest. And, you know, if anyone hasn't been to Oakville Trafalgar Community Center, would, you know, be happy to take you through there, because you can see everything done properly and done in a good way. And then we could look at specific projects such as the Downtown Cultural Hub, where we're going to have a series of buildings that are rebuilt, whether it's the theater. You could provide some rich feedback on that. The square, I think a number of things like that would be both interesting and worthwhile.
So I bring it back to the committee. I challenge the committee. Do you think we should put together a working group to do this kind of work? Yes, please, Deborah.
From what I'm hearing from Christine and others is that really it's not the role of this committee to review every site plan, and they have, to Dave's point, they have subject matter experts that can do that, and the town has set up and to do that. I think there's indication that some will come to this committee, but maybe our role is more around identifying things from an advisory standpoint as to our expertise in that area, as to what we are flagging. I'll use the word flagging for the departments as to things that we notice that they should be looking for, investigating, incorporating into what I call a big picture site plan perspective with respect to accessibility. Maybe that's a better role for us in that regard. I'm not seeing unless we were to get a lot of what I call referrals to the committee. If that happens, then maybe an opportunity then for a subcommittee. But as far as having a working group to look at every particular site plan or that, I'm not sure that that was the intention, even from what Andrew read, as to what the intention of this committee. But I could be wrong.
I think I agree with you, because we were asked before as a committee, because I've been on this committee before, is that really what we want to do is have our insight as to what possibly would be difficulties for people with accessibility, challenges. And we're not getting involved in the design work. We're not getting involved in the detail, nor in what the Ontario Building Code says. It's just, do we have an opinion on what these, barriers may be? And then we pass it back for the subject matter as experts to determine how to handle it.
Yeah.
Is that correct, Christina? Do you agree with that?
Yes, I'm in agreement, and certainly, we would love to hear from subject matter experts from, the design perspective, but from, what we don't do is,
Andrew, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just want to add two things, and Christina, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I do know that when they were developing the criteria and the lens in which their staff does review site plans with respect to accessibility, they did consult with the committee, and so should there be any updates or should there be any changes, they would once again bring those changes or updates to the committee for consultation. And then another piece that Andrea Wood, who's with us virtually as well, reminded me is mandatory items, such as part of a trail, beach access routes, new outdoor play spaces, exterior paths of travel and rest areas, and accessible parking. Those they all require consultation by the AODA. So all of those pieces would be brought, all of those matters would be brought to AAC for consultation.
So from that point of view, would you pass that on through me as the chair so that they get distributed between our meetings, which are quite, not that frequent?
I'm sorry, could you repeat your question about?
My question to you is, all those items that you have listed.
Yeah.
And we are supposed to look at.
Yeah.
Are they going to be dumped on us in the next, set of agenda, or will we get them piecemeal throughout that period of 4 months?
I might have Andrea Wood jump in if she wishes to correct what I'm saying, but I do believe that it does depend on the work plan of the town, and so they do have a 3 to 4 year work plan, and so they would bring it for consultation for whatever pieces are in their work plan. Andrea, did you want to comment any differently?
So in other words, we would give general comment on those work plans, which is fine. But all I'm concerned about is the specifics that Christina was talking about, for specific buildings. And that's, if you send that through to us, then we can take a look at it. But from the standpoint of the committee, and I'm, sort of speaking on my own for the committee, but I think we'd like to see those things, sort of on a more regular basis than having sort of dumped on you at one stage. That way, you can work through it between our meetings. Does that make sense? I asked the committee, does that make sense? I'm not getting any comments from anybody.
So again, I feel like from an advisory standpoint, we would give information that could be incorporated into those, but whether or not we will want to see every particular plan or building or development, but more from a general perspective as the advisory committee to say, for example, we believe that there should be accessible washrooms incorporated into every municipal building, but I'm just hypothetical here. I know there are, but I'm saying, and then that general advice around accessibility would be then taken into, that's our advisory role, and then they would assess it from there as to whether that's something that they would want to incorporate into future buildings or plans and that sort of thing, to make sure that as long as they know there's a list of things that have to be done, they're making sure they get done. We don't have to we're not oversight in that regard. They're going to oversee to make sure those things are. That's just my point of view on the advisory perspective.
Okay, Councillor Geddes, I'm going to ask you a question that you've raised. It used to be the council would pass on the ones that you thought were important for us to look at. You've said that with the changes in the provincial government mandates, you don't get to see all those. You don't get to, have the opportunity to let the advisory committee know. So in actual fact, that says to me, the advisory committee is hamstrung.
If I may, I don't know whether we're hamstrung or whether the evolution of digitization and professionals and training and having staff members that are qualified. Years ago, when I was first on this committee, we had a subcommittee of three people that knew what they were doing. And I never went on that subcommittee because I'm not up to date on the rules and regs. I'm not an architect. I was of no use. I would simply get in their way. I looked at them with interest, but now, between the Ontario Building Code, the AODA, they've come a long way in terms of a specified number of parking spaces, the grab bars, like all those things. So I don't need to delay the process by looking at what's been done.
For one thing, I have some familiarity with the Ontario Building Code, having been in the construction business all my life. It is very specific in a lot of places where I don't think we have to be involved at all because it's mandated in the building code. And if you don't have it in the building code and it goes through the process with the professionals in the town of Oakville, there's nothing for us to do. It's really, we're looking at it from the perspective, does it give us a problem as somebody with a disability, which may not be addressed completely in the Ontario Building Code, because I know it doesn't address everything. Andrea, you had your hand up.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Andrea Wood just advised as well that consultation on the 2024 Oakville Universal Design Standards is being updated next year. That the OUDS is being updated next year, and so of course consultation will happen with this committee. So that'll be a great opportunity as well.
Okay, anyway, I think we've discussed this fairly heavily, and I'm going to cut it off unless somebody's got anything else to say on the issue. And I think we'll leave it until the next meeting to see if we need to do anything further. So with that, I would like a recommendation that we have received the site plan review from the planning department. Is there a motion to do that, to accept that? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to item 4.2, the 2023 Annual Accessibility Status Update. And I think you're doing that, aren't you, Andrea? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. So as we're just bringing up the presentation. I came to this committee in September with the 2022 annual status update just because of the way recruitment happened. So what I'm presenting on today is the 2023 accessibility annual status update. So just to reiterate again what I shared in September, every year we do provide this annual status report to the committee on members taken to implement the town's multi-year accessibility plan to meet the requirements under the AODA and highlight some key achievements. So you'll see that the accessibility annual status update for 2023 is attached as Appendix A to the report in today's agenda, item 4.2. So the report has been prepared with input from staff across the town from various departments and business areas. And of course, any feedback provided today will be included in the final report and will be posted to the town's website. The Town of Oakville's multi-year accessibility plan outlines how we plan to meet our requirements under the Integrated Accessibility Standards Regulation. So I'll be referring to that as the IASR. This plan is available on the town's website and available in accessible format upon request. The annual status update flows from the multi-year accessibility plan and informs everyone on how we have worked to meet the requirements this year. And this annual status update is important as it closes up the fifth and final year of the town's 2018 to 2023 plan and includes all actions we've taken to date. And of course, work has begun on the town's 2024 to 2029 multi-year accessibility plan. So developing, posting, and implementing a multi-year accessibility plan is an ongoing requirement of the IASR under the AODA. So the town's previous plan focused on specific phased-in requirements under the IASR and our actions to meet them. So we have met almost all of them, with the exception of one which I'll touch upon, and no new requirements are currently set out by the province. So our approach in the development of the new plan will focus really on meaningful engagement with business areas, with staff, the community, and of course the AAC. And just to recap, there are 5 standards under the province's IASR that support the creation of an accessible province by 2025, and that's customer service, information and communications, employment, transportation, and design of public spaces. So the status update provides an update on the town's progress and our commitment to compliance with all 5 of these standards. Again, I spoke about this at the September meeting. An accessibility compliance report must be submitted to the province every 2 years, and this year was a reporting year. So the town has filed its compliance report, and we have met all provincial compliance requirements, with the exception of one, and this is with respect to the WCAG 2.0 AA requirements. And there are significant challenges in achieving and maintaining this compliance, as most municipalities in Ontario have realized as well. Consultation continues with the province and other Ontario municipalities in development of a plan to achieve compliance. And I also do know that consultation is happening with the province and municipalities to identify the requirements and what is, if any updates are needed to them. So just outlining some key accomplishments. Accessibility policies and procedures. We have them all posted to the town's website, and of course they're accessible in other formats upon request. As I spoke to earlier, we continue to implement the town's multi-year accessibility plan and are working on the revised new plan for next year. Training materials on the ISAR and Human Rights Code. We roll that out to new staff and existing staff, council, volunteers, and those who provide goods, services, or facilities on the town's behalf on an ongoing basis. And support continues to be provided to staff on creating accessible documents, and a statement about availability of accessible formats and communication supports is maintained on the website. With obviously human resources lead this, individual accommodation plans created for employees requesting assistance, and as well there is support for those employees who require temporary or permanent work accommodation. And there is a process in place to review these individual accommodation plans annually. So as I mentioned, website and web content continues to be a priority. The town has maintained statements on the town website about availability of information in accessible formats and availability of accessible supports for town meetings, events, surveys, and any instance where feedback is requested by the town. Key documents, such as the multi-year plan or council strategic plan, is available in alternative formats upon request. We provide captions on all pre-recorded videos of Town of Oakville on the Town of Oakville YouTube channel, as well as live broadcasts of council and committee meetings. So the WCAG 2.0 Level 2 AA requirements, we do continue to work to meet those requirements, keeping in mind the challenges associated with them, which I spoke to. However, there is ongoing web content accessibility compliance monitoring. And the town did launch their new website in the spring of 2023, and staff ensured that the web content accessibility guidelines were followed in its development. So now I do want to introduce Heather Ray with the Oakville Public Library. She just is here to speak to the accomplishments of the public library.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me here today. I'm just going to mention a few things. As we always have, we have
Thank you, Heather. Okay, so moving to transit. So transit staff were here at the September meeting to speak to their 2023 Oakville Transit Accessibility Plan. And this includes both Oakville Transit conventional and caravan services. The fleet is 100% low floor and ramp equipped. Oakville Transit provides no charge fare on both Oakville Transit and caravan to support a person who is accompanying a person with a disability. Accessible, responsive, and mobile-friendly OakvilleTransit.ca includes accessible online customer service feedback form for transit, ongoing accessibility training for transit drivers on safe use of accessibility equipment and features, acceptable modifications, and emergency preparedness. So just some ongoing key accomplishments. Accessibility is really integrated in all programs, services, and facilities. So an example of this is the driveway snow windrow clearing program for seniors 65 years and older and people with physical disabilities or medical conditions that are unable to clear the windrow on their own. Accessibility is considered in all procurement processes. Accessibility training is ongoing in all departments for all staff, both full-time and part-time. And online and virtual offerings are ongoing, including an interactive accessibility map and ways to provide input, and of course, virtual meetings. So looking at facilities, the Oakville Universal Design Standards, which Andrea mentioned, there are updates that they'll be looking into in 2024 for town facilities, addresses all requirements, and its use is mandatory for all construction projects at town facilities, including new construction, additions, renovation, and capital replacements. And this ensures ongoing compliance. And additionally, incorporated technical requirements in new construction or redevelopment plans and ensuring ongoing compliance, including detailed reviews and accessibility updates. As I mentioned earlier as well, there was a provincial physical audit this summer, and the town met all requirements for new builds or retrofits. So this year, new play spaces were installed at Everest Park, Sawit Park, Merton Parkette, Queens Plate Parkette, and park rehabilitation took place at Postridge Park. And again, technical requirements are incorporated into all new construction or redevelopment plans as prescribed, which ensures ongoing compliance. So I just wanted to thank you for your commitment to this committee and your participation in every meeting. I do welcome feedback on this. And just to note as well, with respect to the 2023 work plans and 2024, the 2023 accomplishments and the 2024 work plan, that's also listed on this agenda as well as item 4.4.
I just have a quick question for Heather. For the EVAC chair, I assume that that's open, or that can be used for staff as well, if any staff and that staff have an evacuation plan?
Yes, absolutely. So the chair is available to anyone. It actually is on the wall right beside where the people would access to the first floor. And we've had quite a lot of staff members trained on it so that they could support people who are leaving or maybe also direct first responders to it too. It's actually an amazing thing. I don't know if you've seen them in action before, but it feels like it's very precarious on the stairs, but it won't tip. Even if somebody lets go of it, nobody can fall. It just, somehow the gravity balances it, so it's really nice when you just slide right down the stairs.
So sorry, just to dig a little deeper. So if there's an evacuation necessary, like say a fire alarm goes off and you have to evacuate, then there are certain wardens or people that are actually, okay, thank you.
Yeah, we do have a fire plan. So the staff who are on the second floor would be responsible for making sure anyone on that floor is able to leave safely.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I have a question. WCCAG 2.0, what does that mean?
I will get back to you on that. I'm not, it has to do with website consortium, I believe, but if any other committee member can jump in, I can probably find that out shortly before the
Just
meeting's over.
send me a note.
I
'cause
absolutely
it's
will.
an acronym, I have no idea what it means.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none? No, sorry, Devin, yes, go ahead.
So I might actually, Andrea, is that something that you can comment on?
I think demonstrated there, I understand the question correctly, you were asking when does that feedback happen, when does something happen? I think that happens in those planning documents, in the, sorry, not the zoning bylaw, but the development standards. I think we spoke about the Oakville University design standards, and some consultations happen in the past for that purpose. So these guidelines were developed to see the prospective, guidelines in order to give feedback to constructors that are doing the project. So a lot of the later work is not necessary because it's been done in the planning stage with these guidelines that are mandatory for town buildings. Does that answer your question? I can say in 2019, there were assessing audits done on, if I recall, 54 town facilities, including parking lots, parking lots, actually everywhere from the parking lot to the every residential building. Every room was marked, and then those are universal design standards, those Ontario building codes, and the AODA, the Act. So I bet 3 different metrics, and they were weighted, and that was by the 2019 and 2023 4-year facility services plan. These are the working group for AODA compliance first and foremost, safety, and we'll be moving on to hit all the other areas that we'll work through the audit. It's a very tedious program that will not finish in a year or two. It's typically, with some of the buildings being 50 years old, it might take us up to 20 to 30 years to get through, and that's from 2019 audit. So, but generally, you can be assured that any new construction, new building, we meet and exceed the minimum building code because of the Oakville universal design and the development standards that are our code.
And Jim, I'd like to add one more comment. Sorry, go ahead, Deborah. My comment is this, we discussed this a little bit earlier. I would like to make a recommendation from this committee that in the 23-24 plan, the council consider comments from the advisory committee on issues that they may find that are difficult for them, that may be beyond the mandate of the town. For instance, and I won't go into detail, but I've had a lot of trouble with the with Metrolinx And I think the town would have a much better chance of getting those changed than an individual like me.
So I wonder if that would be something that that would have to be addressed in the terms of reference?
Yeah, it would have to be. So, okay.
So if there's a desire from the committee to establish a working group to review the terms of reference, because it is council approved, any changes to it, which would include something like that on the as a standing agenda item, there could be a working group established to review it.
That's a separate item from this
So
report.
that would be appropriate for item 4.4 because that's where I speak to the committee's work plan
Okay.
for 2024.
Okay. Anyway, at this stage, I would like to have the report of December 5th entitled Annual Accessibility Status Update from the Clerk's Department be received. Is there a motion to that? Oh, sorry, Deborah.
No, sorry. I just wanted to build just for a second on what Devin said, in the fact that if, like there's a new park or there's something that's been built, and I take my child there, and I find that there's a problem with accessibility or something, and then I write to say, maybe I know I should write to Service Oakville. So say I write an email to Service Oakville, identifying the issue or the problem then. Are those then comments categorized and put over in this bucket saying, okay, here's the ones that we have, the feedback from the consumer, I'll call them consumer, the feedback from the consumer, the citizen, are those then categorized and is something done with them to help in the future or even to adjust in current? So for both for knowledge for future build, but also if there's something that we could do, I'm not just saying like the one-off, but if we see a trend or something that is very common, like to sort of say, as Devin said, we're not perfect. What if we missed it? How do we fix it? And then how do we prevent it? So our hits and misses.
So I'm going to speak to that, but I will ask Andrea to jump in if I'm incorrect. But I do know that there is, one of the requirements is feedback, ensuring there is a process for receiving and responding to feedback. And I'm just trying to find that in the plan right now. But I do know that we do have a process. We do have an established process. And that's actually something that we have spoken to, and we know that we do need to have consultation around that in development of the 2024 to 2029 multi-year accessibility plan. So Andrea, I'll open it up in case you wanted to add anything to that.
Okay, now, with that, I'll ask for the annual accessibility status update to be received. A motion for that, please. Deborah, okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. And with that, I'm going to turn the chair over to Julie because I have to leave, unfortunately. David.
Thank you. Before you leave us, you had a question regarding the working committee for the terms of reference. Has that been closed off?
No, it's
Okay.
You know, it's item
Just didn't want to forget about
Yeah,
it.
so Julie, I hope you picked up on that.
Good stuff. Thanks, David.
So we're going to continue with 4.3, street name, sign size, and curb slope treatments presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair. I don't have a presentation. We have presented the report. We had a motion from the committee in September 8, 2022 to double the street name signs on major intersections and paint the yellow lines at the curb slopes. So we did the research, what our current standards are for the street name signs, and we did what other municipalities, neighboring municipalities are using. So our current standards are we are using 12-inch sign, height of the sign, and 10-inch font size. And the maximum font height used by neighboring municipalities, Mississauga and Brampton, is 12 inches, and their sign height is 18 inch. They use bigger sign. But based on our findings, they have different pole types. It's all written down in detail in the report. They have octagonal steel poles, which are less resistant to sailing effect of wind load. But in our case, we have round aluminum poles. So based on our findings, we are recommending to increase our sign height from 12 to 14 inches. And we are recommending to increase the font height from 10 to 12 inch. So our font height will be similar to the neighboring municipalities, which is maximum height, but we do not recommend like 18-inch sign size for all intersections because of our poles and sailing effect and because of increased maintenance and safety issues. The only 18-inch size sign size that we are already using, I brought in the signs just to provide a visual context. Wherever we have a stacked street name, like 2 lines of street names, we already use 18-inch signs, and we will continue using that, but those are about 6% of the total signs. So 94% of the signs, they are currently, we are using a 12-inch sign height, which we will increase by 2 inches, and the font height will also increase by 2 inches. So difference between other municipalities and us is, for example, Mississauga or Brampton, if they are using a bigger sign, but they are consuming the space with the border, but their font height will be the same like ours. We'll be using the maximum sign space for font. So we'll mimic the font size with the other municipalities, but sign height we will not increase to that level that it causes maintenance issues or safety issues. And as far as curb slopes treatments, we are already complying with AODA. We install tactile plates, walking surface indicators, and at all intersections as part of capital or as part of our like the maintenance program or new builds, we are installing accessible pedestrian push buttons at signalized intersections, but we do not recommend yellow paint because it's not consistent with, it's not required by AODA, it's not consistent with any other municipality, no municipality is using it. And another reason is yellow paint doesn't provide a good contrast on concrete, and it doesn't stick well to concrete. It will be very like huge maintenance in future that we will require. So those are our recommendations. So if you have any questions about the report, please.
I'm just wondering if you could very quickly state the reason that you're not able to accommodate the maximum font height size as compared to the other municipalities?
It's not the font height, it's the sign height, because other municipalities, Mississauga and Brampton, they are using 8-inch height of the sign, but these signs at signalized intersections, they are installed on the signal arm, which is a cantilever arm, which is tied to the signal pole. They have steel poles which are octagonal, which are less resistant, because as we increase the sign height, the wind load will increase on the sign, on that arm basically, and the arm will eventually twist. So in our case, we have aluminum poles. Those are not octagonal, those are round poles. They are more there's more possibility of rotating those, rotation of arm on those poles. So that's the reason we don't recommend to go to 18-inch height.
Through you, Madam Chair, I just wanted to point out to Devin, only because he is virtual, that the staff rep did bring some sign examples here. I don't know if the committee wishes to see them. It probably is tough for you, Devin, to see through, but we do have some.
I did see that he was pointing at something. And you know, while I'm talking, if I could just make a comment, the reason that I was motivated to speak on this, one, several was that I legal fund, but my comment was simply to say that for folks that are really blind to us, that it won't ever be enough. And so if there's an engineering challenge, if there's a height of a font, that's recognized. There are alternate options, creative options, and things that innovations that are available to help people who can get into the section, identify the location that they are. It's not just for drivers. And think of the signs that for all for being for all pedestrians. Not really a comment. Sorry, not a question.
Well, thank you very much. A couple of things. I had no idea how large those signs are when you're driving along the road.
They can go, their length can go maximum up to 7 feet.
Yeah, driving along, it shows you what speed does to limit your vision. So this is going to be coming through for the 2025 budget process.
Yes.
So these aren't going up next week or
No.
next month.
Next month.
It will be a year from now that council's discussing it, and they may approve the 5-year or the 7-year or
Yes.
whatever. Okay. And-
Through you, Madam Chair, we are providing 2 options.
Right.
Yes, in the report we have like one to do it as part of our regular LED replacement program, which is our recommendation, and the second option is to have a standalone contract to install these signs.
And so if it's part of the, regardless, I guess, new signs as they open up, I was going to use William Halton Parkway, but that's a regional road, but new roads as they open would have the new size then. You don't have to wait,
No, they will have new standard,
which
is approved. Yeah.
makes it better. All right, and I just want to point out for the committee that this is a suggestion that came through a public group. You were, earlier was talk about, you know, if there's a pinched finger or something at a playground, how does it get tracked, and how does, you know, how does change occur? Being a counselor in an area with a lot of playgrounds and a lot of moms and dads, I get a lot of those calls, and they get fixed very quickly. Something like this, it's just great to see that it came up through a residents, a public group, and here it is before us, so the system works.
Just for interest, if the new signs are going up, are you changing the pole to a steel pole, or are
No,
you?
we are not
You're going to
planning to
keep
change.
it consistent with the
Will be
aluminum?
consistent, because the reason back then when we choose this aluminum poles instead of steel poles, because aluminum poles are less likely to catch rust.
Okay,
They last longer.
right,
So if we don't recommend to change
okay.
back to steel.
Okay,
steel
so we're
poles.
ahead of the game with the aluminum.
Yeah.
Okay,
And they aesthetically they look better
okay,
than the steel poles.
great. And then just touch base on the yellow paint. What was the yellow paint for?
It was on curved slopes.
Oh, on the curb. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Because we installed tactile plates, tactile walking surface
Right.
indicators as
Right.
per AODA, and we don't recommend yellow paint.
Okay, so if you have the tactile, you're foregoing the yellow paint.
Any new installs or any intersection which is rebuilt or as part of capital, we are installing tactile plates.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Okay. So we move to motion that the item 4.3 streets name, sign size, and curb slope treatments are in favor? And opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
And now, a presentation on 4.4, the AAC 2023 accomplishments and proposed 2024 work plan.
Hi, everybody. So I'm back as promised. So I am quite pleased to report on the accomplishments of the committee, not just yourselves, but also the previous committee from 2023, and discuss with you the 2024 work plan. So of course, I invite questions and feedback throughout the presentation if you wish, or towards the end. So again, this year it looked a little different just because there was a bit of a delay with recruitment. So we did the orientation in June. And then we brought the 2023 work plan in September. So I do look forward to 2024, and I do look forward to establishing the work plan with the committee today. So of course the work plan, it will involve town initiatives, consultations, community awareness, and collaboration. So just to briefly recap what we did this year. So at the March meeting, the previous committee was consulted on the rainbow crosswalk installations. At the June meeting, we had the orientation of the new members, yourselves. Also this year, the AAC was consulted on key plans, including the Oakville Transit Annual Accessibility Plan, which transit staff presented in September, as well as the Facilities and Construction Management plans on the areas of work that they're focusing on in 2023. Their areas of focus included accessible parking, access aisles, pedestrian signals and signage, stairs, ramps, and exterior paths of travel. And also this committee was informed of the provincial compliance updates, which included the physical audit the town participated in the summer and the accessible compliance reporting requirements. So, of course, this year we continued to seek out opportunities to increase community awareness and collaboration through participating in the following events and raising awareness through social media. So this was the town's Community Spirit Awards, National Accessibility Awareness Week, International Day for Persons with Disabilities, which we just celebrated recently, and Metrolinx consultations and CNIB initiatives and advocacy campaigns. We also, I just wanted to highlight, we spoke about the Treat Accessibility movement, which is a grassroots movement involving accessible trick-or-treating lawn signs to make Halloween accessible and inclusive for all, and I'm happy to say that the town did support that initiative. I myself had a lawn in my front yard, and it did start up some cool conversations, so I was pleased about that. So just looking forward to 2024. So the committee will continue to work with town staff to promote awareness to ensure barriers to accessibility are identified and eliminated for improved accessibility in the community. So of course this is in the terms of reference that we spoke to earlier. Planned town initiatives that this committee will be involved in include diversity and inclusion plans, town construction, renovation, and planned projects, 2021 to 2024 FCM, which is Facilities and Construction Management Department, their work plan for accessible improvements at facilities. Of course, we'll have Oakville Transit staff back to speak to accessibility initiatives in transit and the annual accessibility plan for Oakville Transit. We also are looking to some updates to the town's procurement policy to reflect amended requirements to the Accessible Customer Service Standard and the IASR, and outreach opportunities, including accessibility and inclusion promotion materials. And of course, I spoke to earlier too, the development of the town's 2024 to 2029 multi-year accessibility plan. So as I mentioned, the town has met most of the requirements outlined in the existing plan, with the exception of the web requirements, and there's no new requirements set out by the province. So the new plan, the 2024 to 2029 plan, will be built off the existing plan. Of course, meaningful engagement will happen with the staff, with the community, with business areas, and yourselves, AAC, and its development. So I won't go into too much detail about site plan, as I think Christina really did do a comprehensive presentation on the history of site plan review at the town, the approach the town is taking with respect to site plans. But of course, in accordance with the terms of reference, site plan applications as determined by the town will still be brought to the committee, as described in Section 41 of the Planning Act and as determined by the town. So just another thank you to Christina for providing an overview of the process, and I'll make sure I'll follow up to have her provide you that quick reference guide she mentioned. So similar to what we were involved in last year, we're going to continue to work together alongside town staff to promote community awareness and participation in various town and local events, and we'll raise awareness of those events through the town and social media. And we're going to continue to work on joint initiatives with the town and the region, and of course, any legislation consultations required. So that does conclude the plans for 2024. Sorry, I do wanted to add as well, Andrea Woods mentioned that there is an update to the Oakville Universal Design Standards. So I am actually going to add that to the work plan because that is very important, and that definitely will be brought to the committee for consultation. But I do open the floor up to anyone who has feedback on the plan if they wish to have the committee consider anything else we wish to add to it.
Any questions at this time?
Dave?
Thank you. Can we have some field trips? Hop on one of the cute little buses and go to a OTCC or one of the other communities, 16 Mile Creek, that kind of stuff. It's one thing to see it on the screen or read about it, but actually being able to get out there and look at it and experience it, I think adds a lot to it.
I would love to organize that. Absolutely, I would.
Yay.
So in whichever capacity we can make it happen, we will.
Excellent, thank you.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Devin, did you have a question or no?
If I'm understanding your question, this is with respect to the 2024-2029 plan?
Yeah, so maybe it's the Wheel Highway.
Is this on the presentation? You know, what I can say is, as we work to develop the plan, one of the first items that we do plan to put out is a public survey, and it will speak generally to accessibility in the town programs, services, facilities, parks, open spaces, and so that is one way that we really should be able to generate some feedback from the residents. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, that's our first step, and so I do plan to come back to the committee at the March meeting, not necessarily with the draft plan at that point, but to inform the committee as to what we've received, what consultation we've done, and what feedback we've received in its development.
Councillor Giddings?
Seeing as this work plan is going to cover several years, any word from the province about the 2025 deadline on the AODA?
I know there's a lot of consultation happening, but to my knowledge, no, nothing yet.
I'm sure you'll keep us up to date.
Absolutely.
We're hoping and expecting big things here.
We all are, absolutely.
Thank you.
Deborah, go ahead.
I'm probably jumping ahead too far here, but just around the feedback, will there be discussion on how to get the feedback? I know that sounds weird, but just to have different mechanisms for feedback. We always tend to go to traditional ones, and maybe we need to look at how to get feedback in a broader sense. So again, it's probably too early in the process, but hopefully there will be opportunities to provide ideas on how to get feedback.
Absolutely. I think that's an excellent idea, and we haven't finished establishing the questions, so I'll make sure that we do incorporate a question specific to feedback and ways that we can collect that feedback. Andrea, I will put it out to you if you wish to add anything to this. Great, thank you. And so the strategy that Andrea referenced is the IDEA strategy. I believe that's what it's called. And so that'll act as the overarching strategy. But the multi-year accessibility plan, because it is legislated, it'll be a plan under that IDEA strategy.
Any further questions at this time?
And I'll just double check, Devin, did you have any other further questions? He's good.
Sorry, just quickly to clarify, so Oakville Transit accessibility is still continuing to be on the plan?
Absolutely. Okay, yes.
Perfect, thank you.
At this time, I will ask for a motion regarding item 4.4 AAC 2023 accomplishments and proposed 2024 work plan. To move, those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. We'll continue on with the item 5, information items listed below 5.1 through to 5.5.
Okay, so I can speak to 5.1. I do believe it was linked in the agenda, but again, just an information item for the committee with respect to the Hidden Disabilities Sunflower Program. Metrolinx has joined the Hidden Disabilities Sunflower Program to support people with disabilities that may not be immediately visible. It's a great initiative. Customers may request and wear a sunflower pin, which voluntarily indicates to GO Transit and Up Express employees that additional help, understanding, or a little more time may be required. Metrolinx is the first public transit agency in North America to adopt the program, and Toronto Pearson is also a partner of the Sunflower Program and offers participants a seamless journey to and from the airport on the Up Express. So there is additional details online should anybody wish to explore them.
Item 5.2, the 2024 meeting schedule, as outlined in the minutes for tonight. The proposed next date would be March 21st, 2024. Approving. Motion to approve. I'll say.
So with the meeting dates moving forward, they're there for an information item, and then once we go through all the information items, we'll do a motion. Yep. So
Okay.
they're put out there to the committee, granted the committee's in agreement with them.
Okay.
Okay.
Just to restate, the dates will be March 21st, June 13th, September 12th, and December 12th, all within 2024.
Correct.
And then with respect to item 5.3, so if the members recall, I just provided information at our September meeting about the physical audit that happened in the summer. And I was truly hoping we'd have a report that I'd be able to include for this committee, but of course, it is not ready yet. So the province, I know they are working hard to prepare all the reports for the municipalities, but unfortunately, I don't have a report yet from the province that I can provide to you, but we can keep it on as an information item so I can provide it to the committee when we do receive it. But I'll just say again that we did pass it, of course, so no concerns there with respect to the physical audit. Also, I spoke to item 5.4. I did speak to this in both of my presentations, but again, this year is a reporting year for the annual compliance report that we do have to submit every 2 years. We do have a compliance plan that we established with the province with respect to the website. Again, most municipalities are in the same boat that we are. So we do have a plan that we've worked with our web team and the province, and so we are going to file another report at the end of next year to identify how we did work to meet compliance. And then I think at this point, with respect to 5.5, I will pass it to Andrea.
Thank you, Andrea. Any questions regarding any of the items? Okay. I ask for a motion regarding the items and that they are approved for motion to receive. Yep, to receive. Great. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. The last item 6, date and time of next meeting, as discussed previously, will be March 21st at 2024 Oakville Municipal Building in the Oakville and Trafalgar Rooms at 4 p.m. And if there's no further business to come before the committee, we move that a motion pass to Councillor Gettings.
We were going, new business, would that be the terms of reference? Or will that just carry forward?
So I think that should have been addressed, or that we would have addressed that in item 4.4.
All right, so that'll be on the next.
We can bring it as a, I think we'll bring that forward for consideration at the March meeting.
Perfect, thanks.
So if there's no further business to come before the committee, motion for the meeting to be adjourned. Deborah? All in favor? Thank you.